You're walking in the woods. There's no one around and your phone is dead. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot him.
Hello there, my name is Graham, and today we are talking about Pulvis et Umbra Sumus, or as it is in English, We Are But Dust and Shadows. It is a short scenario from Stygian Foxy's Fear Sharp Little Needles, and it's a modern scenario as well, coming in at 5 pages, making it one of the longer scenarios in the book. This scenario is based around the story of Ophelia Atwood in Maine, an immortal recluse that is sick of seeing the world poisoned by humanity and has decided to doom the world and end it all by calling in the deity, the Treader of the Dust, from an old dusty tomb called the Testament of Carna Magnos. I really liked the premise and climax of this scenario. However, it does come with a huge caveat, as the setup, the actions and motives within the scenario by the NPCs are very thin, and you have to hand wave a lot of logical solutions for the antagonist's problems to get to where the scenario wants you to go. If you can gloss over these and have the players not bring them up, this scenario works extremely well, as it pays off with a very epic and strange climax and ending, which will probably thrill your players quite a lot. So we'll get the problems with the scenario out of the way first. You have an immortal woman that can control the minds of people, and she's upset with the ruining of the world by humanity. She can literally mind control people forever, as she is immortal, to carry out her agenda. She can change world politics through these means alone. You can target CEOs, world leaders, religious figures. They'd all be puppets in her hand. But she can't figure this out, so instead she's going to mind control some low-level investigators that have no power to send out suspicious "You have inherited a fortune" scam letters to those in financial difficulties. Nothing dodgy about these invites at all, as they include free plane tickets. Nope, everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. These investigators are meant to turn up at her house after she has killed herself, so they can become channels or conduits for her god that will go about killing the world, turning everything to dust around them. Why she can't just phone the police and have them arrive at her house to be mind controlled or used as conduits, it is beyond me. And beyond her as well. At this point, I'm wondering if she's actually a recluse or she just hasn't figured out door handles yet. On top of this, she wants to turn everything to dust. The entire planet. Not just humanity, everything. The corrosive effects of the Treader of the Dust is to turn everything into dust through decay. So it will target everything from metals to woods to animals and everything on the planet, including her beloved nature, I suppose. We have to hand wave all this, but talk about throwing a wobbly and forgetting your actual core values. This is a problem with a lot of scenarios where the NPCs or the antagonists in general have ridiculous ideas to further the plot rather than make sense to their actual core. The investigators do their due diligence and look into the law firm and Atwood. The initial investigation will be shut down completely as Atwood has no online presence and the law firm is legitimate. Giving little or nothing to go on or care about, this would be a good place to foreshadow linking Atwood to protests and environmental groups like the Extinction Rebellion, for example. This is what I did, and I chose also to put a protest group outside the airport itself to harass the players for using air travel and hammering home the environmental aspect of the scenario itself. Atwood could easily also control organised leaders and spread these protests herself, but hey, our heart was set on using a dust devil to suck up the blemish of society from the earth instead. So after that, they head off to the house itself and they'll find no one there but the lawyer, Dennis. They can snoop around if they wish, and the lawyer will be acting strangely as he's coming out of the mind control, as Atwood is now dead. And they'll find all that needs to be found if you want them to, or you can have the lawyer lock them out after finding that she is not home. He'll then have to rearrange, or tell them he will rearrange the meeting, and they should go to their nearby resort until the next day and come back after he's contacted and rearranged with Ophelia. This will remove the contrived flight delay to keep them in the area and make them more naturally accept the hotel. Just have them booked to stay there in the first place, and have the lawyer also put them up at the hotel. So despite they might not know each other, they'll all be put in the same place, tightening up the scenario somewhat. Finding Joseph, who is a very proactive, nosy neighbour or nosy friend who's loitering in the area after finding out some details from the lawyer's secretary. He can be written off as a mad hobo in the woods, as he's currently insane, babbling nonsense as he follows them to the hotel. Standing outside, staring in an unnerving way is a good way to use him to sort of like build up some of the tension and intrigue in the actual plot itself. To continue the scope of the game, I would also have Dennis the lawyer staying at the hotel. The wife is there waiting for him to come back. There's no reason for the investigators to trek to his office, and the players need the keeper needing to set that whole scene up and taking them out of the main scenes just seems a little bit too much of an effort for such a little payoff. So just confine the entire group to the hotel and the house. So now comes the fun part. Where this whole setup isn't elegant, the payoff certainly is worth it. As the investigators, Joseph, the sort of nosy friend, and Dennis the lawyer are all now conduits from being near the house of a deity called Cthulhu, I think it is. Probably butchering that, but hey. Everything within a mile of these characters and the players themselves will start to decay and turn to dust, sowing panic and confusion through the area of Maine. Spotting these parasitical gods which now follow them round out the corners of their eyes, and having Joseph like screaming and pointing behind them and running to take cover, cowering behind bushes and cars is a good way of furthering the sort of plot and finding out the meat of the scenario's backstory. They can even come to terms with them and attempt to talk to the sort of gods which are following them. Adds a rather what the fuck moment, as my players loved, and it sowed confusion having these things follow them around where everything around them is starting to decay and turn to dust. Layering on this, they cannot die unless another conduit attacks them. They are pretty much in an immortal state. I would just say that they cannot die whatsoever unless they deal with these entities. It makes it a lot more fun, having them being run over by cars and trucks coming through the resort windows and stabbing each other and all sorts of madness. They would just basically just walk it all off and have them not be injured at all adding to the madness of the scene as people around them turn to dust in confusion and terror. Both Joseph and Dennis hand the players the answers at this point, forcing them back into the house. I feel a conversation with their Quetzalcoatl gods that follow them, entities, is more thematic and interesting, and rewards them for interacting and catching sight of the actual gods themselves. Only if they don't do this would I introduce Joseph and Dennis as a way of moving the story forward and giving a solution. Returning to the house, they'll find the book and the suicide note easy enough. As the house has decayed and opened up the attic, just have it there. Basically, the top floor is tilted and fallen, and it now shows the pentagrams on the floor. Reading it as the world collapses around them, having wildlife dying and stumbling into the area, turning to dust as they try and figure out what this book is all about, is a fairly dramatic scene. It's sort of like terror while they're trying to read a book as the world ends around them. The ever faithful Dennis is there to solve the problems for them again if they can't read Greek, which the book is written in, and he'll offer the ritual to bring about the end of the madness. Ascending, they will have to enter a battle of wills with the entities before they can rid themselves of the creatures for good. This fight's a little cheesy, but it's pretty epic, and sadly, I didn't get to play it out because I set up a ritual much like found in the Edge of Darkness, which my players fumbled and failed, which I took as a way to end the scenario with a TPK rather than playing out this scenario. I might have been mistaken in doing that, but missing out in this fun sort of scene, but I felt it was appropriate for failing the ritual to end it there in a dramatic fashion. So all in all, despite being somewhat ham-fisted setup-wise, the scenario itself is complete and tight enough to not require much setup. Unlike most of the scenarios in Fear Sharp Little Needles, you can play this pretty much out of the box. It's a very unique scenario, and I would definitely run it again. Just be aware that if the players find out exactly what's going on and what exactly Ophelia was capable of, they will question her motives and her actions, as they're a little silly. So keep them hidden, and you should have a lot of fun. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again sometime.
His head topples to the floor, expressionless. You fall to your knees and catch your breath. You're finally safe.